What's up, YouTube? It's me, the Artisan MC, and today, I'm going to review Andor Episode 10, One Way Out. Now, this is one of those episodes I was waiting on. I was waiting on the prison break episode, and it finally happened. And I have to tell you, there was a lot of high points for me in this episode, and some low points, but for the most part, um, I really enjoyed this episode. It really left me with a good feeling after I was out of it, of really wanting to see what happens next with these characters. Um, as you can see, I'm on call tonight, so that's why I'm still up at 1:30 in the morning, um, recording this and then going outside to check out the total lunar eclipse. But Andor, One Way Out. Well, this episode wastes no time in getting right into where we left off the last time. It picks up right after the last episode, where you get Kino and Andor having a conversation right after Ulaf has been carted off. And it's a great scene where you get to see Kino processing all of this new information that's coming in, that he's possibly never getting out of here. He's going to die in here. And Andor is really pushing him to tell him, look, we have to go tomorrow. We have to go. We have to. We cannot wait. We have to go now. And Kino is not really wanting to hear it because he doesn't want to believe what he just heard. He's still taking time to process all this. And I would think after the amount of time Kino has spent there and moving up to a position where he's foreman, there can be a bit of institutionalization happening with him, which is why he's having a real hard time adjusting to this new paradigm that you are not leaving. No matter what time you think you had, you are not leaving. You will be here for the duration. And if not here, somewhere else. But Andor is really on him and really psychologically working him in a sense to make him make a decision right in this moment. And the way you understand this is that while they're standing in this anteroom, showered off, changing their clothes, and the buzzer goes off for them to go back to their cell block, Kino gets on program, but Andor doesn't. Andor really starts going in on Kino, to where Kino gets frustrated and he starts going back and forth with Andor, and then Andor goes and gets on program. It's a subtle thing, but it's a manipulation. And it's showing that Andor is now in control of this situation, and in some senses in control of Kino. That Kino has to now follow his lead, which is what he does. And this is the power dynamic shifting in this situation. Andor is now in control, even though most of the other prisoners recognize Kino as being the one in control. Andor is the one, with the stick, making the worm turn. That's just what it is. He wants to get out of here. He knows this is the best opportunity to get out of here, and he's trying to get Kino on board to say, yes, let's go. Tell the other men that we're going to go because they'll believe it coming from you. That's what it is. It's an influencer. Now, they get back to the cell block, and Kino is still having a hard time processing all this. But all the other inmates are having questions. They're like, what happened? What is it? And Andor just started letting the cat out the bag. He don't give a shit. Like he said in the last episode, nobody's listening. So it doesn't matter to him if they say what happened. Nothing's going to happen to them while they're sitting in their cells. And nobody's listening to them down there because they don't care. So he tells everybody what's going on. And they partly believe it, but they don't believe it because Kino has not told them it's so. They want a second. They want the second guy in. Shout out to Ron Bundrum. They want the second guy in to confirm for them that what the doctor said is exactly what's happening, and what Andor is saying is exactly the truth. And they want to hear it from Kino. And Kino tells them, we're going to think about it for the night. Y'all have some thinking to do. Yes, let's think about it. And that's when you get that Kino is possibly going Andor's way, but he needs to think and wrap his head around the plan that Andor told him about to get out of here. Now, I really like the majority of this episode started with them in the prison because that's where the tension is. The tension is there in the prison. You need to know what's going on with these guys, how this is going to happen, how this prison break is going to go down. Will they escape? Will they all be killed, or will most of them be killed? We need to know. We need to know this. Now, the next morning, everybody wakes up. It's time to go for their shift, and Kino steps to the front and tells everybody, "We're going. This is the time that we need to go." But they got their last day of work out of us, but we work today like everything is normal. But we getting out of here today. Today we leave. Die or not, it don't matter. You dead if you stay. You dead if you attempt to leave. And the men recognize that. They don't worry about wasting time trying to tell everybody. They just want the guards and everybody else to understand that it's just another humdrum day. They know nothing, and they will suspect nothing. And when the floor goes off, everybody steps out and they carry on business as usual. And while they are at their stations, everybody is planning. Everybody is doing their role, waiting for the new guy to get brought in so they can spring their escape plan. Which the escape plan was legitimate. I think there was little finer points that could have worked out a little bit better, but I like to see that everybody was on board doing their part, and that the main thrust of the escape was in keeping that lift from coming down, which Andor clued you as the audience into last episode. You stopped the lift halfway down. Now, what he was doing in the restroom was the question. I figured the line that was in the wall was some kind of hydraulic fluid or something like that for the lift. It was some kind of fluid, but it wasn't hydraulic fluid for the lift. It was water for the toilets and whatnot, which I should have expected, but I wasn't thinking about it. Basic plumbing, right? So when Andor makes his, usual run to the bathroom, the line that he was trying to saw or put a crack in was a water line. And he was trying to make that leak to make the floors short out. Now, it's an iffy plan for that reason, because you have an electrified floor with water all over it, which means you're going to get shocked worse, I guess. But it could short out the whole system if you threw, I don't know, some metal into it, because they have a bunch of metal nearby, right? It would overload the circuit and short it out. And sure enough, when the guards bring the new guy into that area and try to bring him down on the lift, Andor jams the lift with one of the rods of the stuff that they're working on, which is a weapon. He jams the lift, and they try to take over the lift. Now, one part that I have an issue with is that the brother got shot. The one that was down from the beginning for the escape plan, he got shot. It was like, He should have been able to climb faster. Apparently, whatever they were feeding him, it was good for them working, standing up, but their arms was garbage, I guess. My thinking is this: he should have had some better arm strength. And all he was doing for I don't know how long he was there was cranking a ratchet and stuff like that. He should have some upper body strength. He should have been able to pull his little skinny ass up and get up there quicker than that. But he didn't. He got popped. That's how it goes. Now, with the guards seeing what is happening, that the lift is stuck and that these inmates are trying to revolt, they go to charge the floor, and the inmates do something really smart, which is everybody jumps up on the table. Most everybody jumps up on the table because the water is all over the floor. And when the guards hit the buzzer to shock the floor, they short out the whole system because some inmates are stuck on the floor, in the water, on the electrified floor, and it shortens it all. And then the actual prison break is on. Now, before this, the inmates were throwing pieces of the metal that they used to build whatever structure they're building at the guards to try to keep them off balance from picking them off. But the two guards actually put in a bit of work. They were taking out a few of those inmates pretty suave. Okay, they were picking them off. I mean, these were not stormtroopers because their shots were hit. These Imperials actually went to target practice because they were picking off these inmates. But the plan with buffeting them with enough, metal and stuff like that, they need to be watching their face. Gain the advantage for Andor and a couple of other inmates to climb up the lift, climb up to the upper scaffold, take out the guards, and get into the control room and grab more weapons and then start going floor to floor, opening the doors. Now this was awesome. This was the prison break moment. And it wasn't prison break in the sense that some other prison movie that I'm thinking of where all the prisoners escape. It's not that. This is more like an Attica situation. This is more like Attica, where they took over that whole prison. They did. And they went up by floors until they got to the 8th floor and actually took over the control room. Shut down the power, shut off the water because it's a hydroelectric plant, turned off all the floors. And then you get a scene where Andor prompts Kino to get on the microphone and say something to all these enemies. Now, mind you, when they went floor to floor, they were opening the doors, killing the guards that they could find, opening the doors, and screaming to the other inmates, we're getting out of here one way out, let's go. And some of them were kind of stuck with what was going on if they knew exactly what was happening, but some of them joined in. So with Kino at the mic in the control room and Andor prompting him to talk, this is more that power dynamic. And it was interesting to see because you see Andor in this moment as the power behind the voice. Because Kino is a foreman, he knows how to talk to people. He knows how to talk to his men and motivate them, right? But he is stuck finding the words to say at this moment because although he wants to do this, he's still going back and forth in his head. And this is what is brilliant about Andy Serkis' acting outside of mocap or anything like that. His acting is phenomenal. He's a phenomenal actor. And you can see it on his face. He's still in some bit of indecision. He doesn't know what to say or what to do. And Andor keeps prompting. And then he goes into it. And at first, his speech is unsteady. It stammered a little bit, but little by little, word after word, it starts coming out. And he repeats the words that Andor told him the day before about what it meant to get out of here and why they were trying to get out. you can feel the passion rising in Kino's voice, where yes, it's Andor's words, but his passion is getting fed into those words. He's talking to those inmates, telling them, this is our chance to leave. No matter what happens, we're getting out of here. We need to leave. Get out of your cell, whatever. This is ours. Right now, this block is ours. We take it. And this is what made it an Attica moment for me. They took over the prison. They did. They took over the prison. And they lay it on the line about what it is that's going to happen. We are never getting out of here. Our lives are forfeit. And if by chance we get out of here alive, they're just sending us to another prison, do all this all over again. So to hell with all that. This, to me, was a great moment because, to me, it is a moment where men are regaining their freedom, their voice, their masculinity, in a sense, in the way that men usually gain their freedom and their voice. They have to fight for it. They have to fight and sometimes die for it. These prisoners are doing just that because in this whole march from cell block floor to the top of the control room in that facility, people died. Inmates died. Guards were hiding. And some of them died too. But it's 5,000 men versus maybe a couple hundred soldiers. They were outmatched. Hiding was your best bet. So, with them taking over that facility, everybody runs for the exits. And I thought for a minute that they were going to get to that exit and they were going to get picked the hell off. Like it would be, I don't know, a starfighter, a trawler, something sitting out there with some Gatling gun kind of cannons on it that would just start chopping them up as soon as they got to the door and got some fresh air. But no, that's not what happened. They got to the fresh air and there's water below them and a prison behind them, and they start jumping. And you end up having an interesting moment that I was expecting to go different. And at this moment, before they got to the door, I was thinking, when they're making this whole prison break and going up these levels, that I really want this character Kino to survive. I do. I want Kino Lloyd to survive. I want to know that he is out in the Star Wars universe somewhere. That Andy Serkis can come back and play a whole nother role without makeup, without mocap, and be in the Star Wars universe. I would really accept it because, like I said, he's a phenomenal actor. But they get to this point at the door. Kino is there. Andor is there. And all the other inmates that are rushing past them are jumping off the edge without hesitation. They out. They leave it, right? And Andor looks at Kino and like telling him to come on, and Kino says, "I can't swim." And I'm like, "Oh, fuck, dude. Damn it. Damn it, damn it, damn it." This is one of the banes. This is one of the banes of not my existence, but I think of people's existence. That you should know how to swim no matter what. Even if it's dog power. At least learn how to freaking float. You just need to know that. I live on the coast. I think it's always weird as hell for to meet somebody who doesn't know how to swim. Like, you live on the coast. We have a whole bay and the beach and the ocean in pools. You need to know how to swim. Water is that other environment that you're going to be in one way or the other. You need to learn how to survive in that. So, Kino is hesitant to jump off because he does not know how to swim. And before Andor can tell him, just come to me or whatever, Andor gets knocked off the edge by some of the other inmates rushing to get off, and he's in the water, and Kino is still standing on the platform. Now, what happens to Kino after that? I don't know. I want to say he leaves. I really want to hope that he leaves there. He's not just sitting on that platform for years. I mean, look, lot of guys there. Somebody could have jumped off and grabbed them or just held them and helped them float or whatever to get the hell out of there. They needed to leave. And this, at that moment, is a beautiful sight where you see an overhead view of this facility. And outside of the facility, on three sides of it, you just see white shirts and troughs of water leading the way from it. And it is the prisoners in that. Those thousands of men, a little less than 5,000 because some of them got killed, swimming for their freedom. And I thought that was a beautiful sight. I really did. Because in a modern day sense, not knowing how far they were away from land or just being able to see land out there, possibly some of those inmates died in that swim. But the fact that they were going for their freedom, even swimming for it, they died free men, which means they didn't. They were free. They got there. I thought it was a beautiful sight. Now, from here, you make the shift to some of the other characters in the show, and you get the understanding that things in this episode have ramped up. Things are going a little bit quicker. Prison stuff has happened. That was a tense moment. Move on to the next thing, and you get back to the ISB. I'm sorry, I keep wanting to mix it up with Cowboy Bebop. You get back to the ISB headquarters, and the ship that they had disabled and captured with Anton Krieger's man on it, it is sent on its way, and it's being picked up by apparently Krieger's men, and they're believing that the ship is just kind of, damaged, and the pilot was killed coming out of hyperspace by a coolant leak or something like that. So they're buying it. And one of the other supervisors comes in and kind of informs or just suggests to Major Prendergast, that they should still inspect the ship as usual, as not to tip off Krieger that something is up. They should carry on like everything is normal, which is a funny saying because it plays on exactly what happened in the prison break scene and what Kino told the inmates. They have to carry on like everything is normal so they don't blow their chance to escape. And in this sense, with the ISB, they want to carry on as normal so they don't blow their chance, catch Anton Krieger's men trying to do this spell house, raid, whatever they're going to do. Now, excuse me, that moves on and you get to the next scene where I got mixed up, but it's okay. You get to the scene where you get Luthen's aide once again. Kayla, where she's coming back into the antique store, and she's letting Luthen know that there was a mark in the fountain. One of the handrails was removed, freshly removed, and that is a signal that somebody wants to talk to Luthen. And while she is absolutely against it, she doesn't want him to go anywhere. It's probably a setup or whatever. Luthen says it's been a year, it's time. He's going to go and meet whoever this mystery person is to talk to. Now, while Luthen is going off to do this, you finally get to see Mon Mothma again and her sit-down meeting with Dove and Scalar, whatever his name. So, and this is kind of interesting in a sense. You get the feeling that Davin is, or David, Davo must be a criminal. He must be some type of criminal. Even though he seems to me like he's just a money lender. He has got really rich doing something. And he just lends money to people for favors. in a sense, that he's buying influence with the loans that he gives. And the conversation he has with Mon Mothma and Tay is a bit interesting in the sense that you find out a little more about Chandelarian relationships and their customs and whatnot. You find out that he actually knows Piran, Mon Mothma's husband. He's talked to him a couple of times or has some kind of interaction with him for some reason. And Mon Mothma is kind of off about it. She's decided to meet with this guy that she was not comfortable with meeting with, but she's doing it. And she's about all business. She doesn't want to engage in idle chit chat. She wants to just know, am I getting this money and what I got to do for it? And Davin actually lays it out pretty clear to her that he doesn't really want anything. She can't pay him, no matter how much she insists. He doesn't want money. He doesn't want credit back. No. He wants something else. He wants to be able to visit. And when he visits, he wants to be able to bring his 14-year-old son. Now, this to me is like, it seemed innocent at first until Mon Mothma's reaction, which was hell's no. She was immediately incensed. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with her? And then it dawned on me what was going on is that Davin is trying to play a little matchmaker with Mon Mothma's daughter. He's going to bring his son. And Mon Mothma's daughter is 13. So he's going to bring his 14-year-old son and let them, have a little meet and see if they can share a moment. Shout out to Kevin Smith and Ben Affleck, right? See if they can share a moment. And this kind of made me laugh because Mon Mothma in this scene just kind of goes off. She's kind of pissed. Like, no, hell no, right? She's not feeling that. That is not okay with her whatsoever. And I'm still thinking, like, what the hell is your problem, right? But I'm sitting there laughing about it because I'm thinking, this is not Game of Thrones. I mean, we just went through all this in House of the Dragon, right? It's not like it's her uncle. Yeah, he's a criminal, maybe. I don't know. But it struck me a bit as Game of Thrones-ish because often, powerful houses arrange marriages and stuff like that. It's not that big of a deal, but Mon Mothma's reaction to that is like, it seems so ridiculous that it made me kind of laugh. It made it kind of funny because she is just absolutely so against it. I'm like, look, have you been living in the same show I've been watching? Because that little girl is a bitch. Her daughter is like kind of bitchy and not likable. Like the less I see her, the more I don't miss her. So having some young little boy come over there and talk to her, maybe they'll lighten her ass up. She can stop being such a little snarky ass when her mother says something to her. Father lets me do everything. Like, Jesus, what the hell's wrong with her? Yeah, I thought she had some developmental problem or something. So I thought it'd be a good idea. My Mothma wasn't thinking that. She wasn't feeling that shit at all. So she promptly excuses Davin. Dave, I gotta say this dude's name right. Whatever. She promptly excuses him, and he doesn't necessarily take offense. He kind of says, well, no, she's thinking about it. Even though she said there's no chance. But look, she didn't think it was any chance of meeting him. And here it is, the next episode, she's sitting down and talking with him because she actually needs that money. Now, that means she's possibly, if she caved for that, she's probably going to cave for this next meeting of him showing up and bringing his son, and letting the two teenagers, talk a little bit. See what's going on. That it just seemed really snobbish to me of Mon Mothma. It seemed really freaking snobbish. And I'm like, whatever. You don't even like that chick. That little girl don't like you. So whatever. Right? Now, you leave that scene and you get to finding out what is going on Ferrix. And on Ferrix, you find out that what's his damn name? Martha. She's getting sicker, and a doctor comes to see her, but she is still refusing to take her medication or any of that stuff. Now, the interesting part is that Cinta is still there, and she's watching like a hawk that house. And I don't know why nobody has actually took notice of her ass yet. She just sitting there, ain't got nothing to do, keep watching people lurking in the shadows. Somebody need to be keeping an eye on her. We already know from earlier episodes that she is the person that won't have a problem killing you. So she watching a little bit too hard. Now those little bits are just to let you know what's going on in these smaller parts, because the main episode is about this prison break and this next scene that happens with Luther. Now, what you get, you're in, excuse me, you're still on, I'll forget the name, it's late, forgive me, I forget the name of it. They're on the planet, and you get to see Supervisor Lonnie. I can't remember his last name, but he is in some darker parts of that planet, away from the ISB buildings and whatnot. He's going and passing all these aliens into some real shady parts of the world, right? And he gets into an elevator and punches in a code and then grabs into the rafters and pulls down an earpiece and slaps it in. And what you hear is Luthen's voice talking to him. And it turns out that this Supervisor Lonnie of the ISB is actually a plant, a spy for Luthen in the ISB. And the conversation they start having while he's in the elevator going down is interesting, but the most fascinating part happens once that elevator reaches its destination at the bottom. And what you find out through this descent to these lower bottoms is that Supervisor Lonnie has a child. He's a new father. And Luthen knows that. He's using that information against him in a sense that he knows everything is okay. And it seems like it's leverage against him, because it makes me think that, okay, do they have his kid or something like that, or what? But once Supervisor Lonnie gets down to the lower part and the door is open, Luthen is standing there on the catwalk. One of the smartest things I've ever seen happens in Star Wars is where Supervisor Lonnie doesn't step out onto that catwalk too. You know, that's a Star Wars faux pas. Never step out onto a catwalk with one person standing. No, it never ends well. It never ends well. So Supervisor Lonnie stays in the elevator, and him and Luthen have an exchange. And what you find out is that Luthen put Supervisor Lonnie in position. He's been a spy the whole time in a very departed kind of way. He has been a mole in the ISB for over 6 years. For over 6 years. And the last time he contacted Luthen was about a year ago. But what happens is that he has risen up to the rank of supervisor because Luthen has fed him information to help his career advance, just like, Leonardo DiCaprio character and Matt Damon's character was feeding information to help crime bosses and other people's careers, right? It's like I'm making fucked up association. So let me finish this. What you get is a conversation that Luthen, again, does not own up to the fact that he pulled off the Aldani theft. He doesn't own that. He doesn't admit that to anybody that he did, which I think is still kind of interesting. Why? It makes sense in a if nobody knows, nobody can say who situation, even though he knows we got that money, right? We got it, we stashed it, and we're not talking about it. So at this point, it's just him, Vale, and Sita, and his aide know that they jacked that money and they stashed, and only two of them know where it's stashed. So that's kind of interesting to me that he's still holding on to that Trump. Like, nope, I don't know anything about that. Damn, I wish I would have got it. You know, that's still interesting to me because that's a lot of credit. It's a lot of credit. But what you hear is that Luthen really needs Lonnie in position and wants him in position. And because of the information that Lonnie brings Luthen finds out about Supervisor Nero, Danger Nero, being on his trail and turning Ferrix upside down looking for somebody called Axis and trying to connect it to Aldani. And also that Anton Krieger's pilot, who was on his way, that showed up dead, that the ISB is planting a trap for Krieger at Spellhouse. And Luthen, in a very cold and calculating way, says, hey, it's 50 minutes. Let them take it. And then they'll assume everything is normal. Here's that same thing playing again. Let them believe that everything is normal. So when we make our bigger move, they won't see it coming. Right? It's 3 times. This is good writing because they hit on the same thing 3 different times. 3 different people saying it. Great writing, right? The next part is a scene that Stellan Skarsgård owns. He owns this damn scene. And this scene is laced with so much information in the dialogue and passion. He starts talking, and that you finally get what is Luthen all about, who he is. I talked about this before in episode 8, how when Luthen went to meet with Saw Gerrera to set up the Spellhouse attack, Saw Gerrera actually pointedly asked Luthen, who is he? Like he doesn't really know who he is, what he's really about. In this scene, in this episode 10, you find out who Luthen is, if you didn't know. And for me, I was right. Luthen is a Jedi. Luthen is a Jedi who survived the Purge and found another way to attack the Empire by fomenting rebellion and bringing it together wherever he could. The stuff he says in this dialogue when Supervisor Lonnie presses him, he talks about wanting to get out, wanting to stop doing this. He's a father now. He wants to raise his child, and Luthen tells him he can't. You're a hero. I need heroes. Let this Spellhouse thing go down the way it is, you'll be a hero. It will help you. It will ensure that your child survives. Because nobody's going to believe you're just going to leave your position all of a sudden because of your wife. No, you have to stay there. You have to stay. You're trapped. You got to be there. Because if you don't, they're not letting you go. Your child is as good as dead. As long as you stay there, your child is dead. And not because Luthen is going to do anything. It's just the situation, ISB. But since Supervisor Lonnie is kind of pissed at him, he asked him what Luthen has sacrificed, because he feels he's sacrificing so much. And what Luthen says in this speech, in this monologue, tells you everything you need to know. It is so many keywords laced in there that tells you Luthen is a Jedi, or he once was a Jedi. And some of the things he says about what he sacrificed, first line, that he sacrificed calm, he sacrificed kindness, he sacrificed kinship and inner peace. That is the Jedi mantra. That is part of the Jedi mantra about being at peace with the Force. He is a Jedi. He says, and I wrote this down because these were such good lines. He says, I share my dreams with Ghost, started more than 15 years ago. If you like Star Wars, you understand what time frame this is. This is before New Hope. Go back 15 years and find out what happened. That's back to Purge times. When they were going after Jedis and killing them. He says that he was a savior against injustice. That is what Jedis did. That is who they were. Luthen was a Jedi. And he sacrificed all of that he believed in, as he says, to use the tools of his enemy against his enemy. Because that's all that's left of him. And that is what he sacrificed. He sacrificed himself. And he gives a grown man speech about fighting for the sunlight that he will never sit in. That's a grown man speech. I love that monologue from Luthen as a character because it said everything without telling you outright, I was a Jedi. I thought it was beautiful. That means what I thought was 100% accurate. I wait to see if anybody proves me wrong. If it's proven wrong, that Luthen was a Jedi and his aide at the antique shop is his Padawan. That's why she gives him shit. That's why she's there. That's his Padawan. That's why all that stuff, that Jedi, that Sith and other stuff is there. Those antiques and stuff like that. It probably did come from the Jedi. It probably did. Stuff he collected on his missions. So, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think I'm probably 90% sure that he was a Jedi. He was a Jedi. And he owned that scene. Stellan Skarsgård owned that scene. Another phenomenal performance in this episode with the backdrop of a prison break where men are getting free. And in a sense, you're seeing what other men have sacrificed for people to be free. Beautiful episode. Beautiful episode. Now, after that episode, you get back to Andor and Melcy. You see they've made it ashore, and they are running through the sand and getting away. And I think that's a good end to this episode because you end on freedom. You end on these guys being free. You understand where they met each other and why they're still together when you see them in Rogue One. They're running with each other since that moment because they met in prison. Cool. I'm fine with it. This was a great episode for me. I am really disappointed that more people are not watching this show because for me, this is Star Wars done right. If not Star Wars done right, this is just good writing done right. This is writing done right. No cheap tricks, no bullshit attacking the fans. Just telling me a good story that I'm engaged in. I want to see these characters win. I give a damn if they get away, if they get killed. It matters to me in some sense because these characters have life. They have backgrounds. You care about their struggles. And this is what's good about this. This was another peak. This is episode 10. This is another peak. It's a 12-episode show. It's only 2 episodes left, so everything is ramped up. So, predictions for next episode. Look, we're going to have to see what happens in Spellhouse. we got to see what's happening in Spellhouse. That has to be part of what's the next episode. And if by episode 12, since I'm really leaning that Luthen is a Jedi, he's going to have to get his kyber crystal. Somebody needs to pop a light. Something needs to happen. Somebody's going to be exposed or something. Since we don't see Luthen in A New Hope, I'm assuming Luthen gets killed somewhere. If it happens in episode 12, it happens in episode 12. But understand that before Andor came out, they had said they had already greenlit like 2, 3 seasons. And they got scaled back a little bit. So I'm really hoping it gets a second season. This has been good so far. I haven't been disappointed in this show so far. I've been engaged with it, just like House of the Dragon. I look forward to watching it every freaking week. I watch it as soon as I can, every freaking week. So they got me for the next 2, definitely, just like they had me for the last 10. This would, in my book, get replay value just to see some of these. But that's it for now. I gave you a review. There won't be any bells and whistles on this one because I'm recording on my phone at work. So no bells and whistles, but you got my review of Andor episode 10, One Way Out, because there is only one way out if you want to be free. That's it. So like, share, subscribe, support the stream if you feel so inclined. $ artisanmc on Cash App or artisanmc on PayPal. It never sleeps. It's open 24/7 anytime. If you're watching on the replay, you think the review was good, drop something in the Brothers Cup. I do appreciate it. So for now, I'm out of here.